right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna take you down a little trip down the Freedom Trail here in Boston, and we're gonna do our best because we've got about 2 hours worth of daylight left. Here in the Far East, you get really short days this time of winter. So it generally is like pitch black by about 4:30 in the afternoon, which it's kind of tough, definitely kind of tough for filming. And it makes for a long, dark winter, but hey, that's the way it goes. So, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and jump on the trail here. In the back, you're gonna see the Bunker Hill Monument, which is that giant obelisk. That was where the famous Revolutionary War battle took place, where we, I guess, temporarily held off the British, or at least, you know, slowed them down. I believe that the colonists actually lost that battle technically, but very historic site, and it is a national park. But yeah, we're just gonna keep walking down through the beautiful Charlestown area here in Boston and just see where it takes us. So thank you for joining me, and let's get going. All right, so the Freedom Trail is kind of cool. It goes kind of all throughout the most historic parts of the city, and there's this, basically the way you follow it, there's this kind of brick literal trail, like a Wizard of Oz kind of golden trail, except it's, you know, just bricks on the ground, but it takes you through some really interesting sites. It starts out in what is arguably the prettiest part of the city, the Charlestown area slash district. Really beautiful, expensive old homes here. Just a really pretty area. But yeah, we'll keep moving along the trail. So here we are at one of the first little stops. I'm not even gonna pretend to know what the history is here. The point of this channel, the point of these videos is just to kind of show you guys these places. But I've always liked this fountain just because I like the interesting like fish heads that are on it. They kind of have little fish hats almost, which is kind of interesting. Almost gives kind of a Asian vibe to it almost, kind of an Asian carp perhaps. Pretty cool though, and in the summertime they have obviously the fountains on, and you know, it's really pretty. So there you have it. We'll keep moving along. Right, we are now still on the trail. We are crossing over. To my right, you can see the beautiful Bunker Hill Bridge, which you'll notice looks a lot like the monuments. Definitely was intentionally designed that way, but one of the prettier bridges in the city, and just something really cool to see. right, we have crossed the bridge. Now we are getting back into Boston proper. So leaving Charlestown, getting back into the proper city here. It's about to get pretty busy. We're headed into the north end, which is kind of the Italian part of town, you could say. Tons of good restaurants, best food in the city. Feels like a completely different city. It's absolutely just probably my favorite part of the city if I had to guess. But on a Saturday afternoon, evening like this, it is going to be packed with people wanting a good, nice Saturday meal out. So I'll do my best to film as much as I can. But yeah, just keep going, keep walking along the trail here and pointing things out as we come across them. So one thing that's cool about the north end is just like how tight the streets are. Like these are all really old buildings, so you can kind of look around. It gets very like narrow back here, which is neat. Total nightmare to try to park in. I don't recommend ever trying to actually drive in here and park your car. Like it's just going to be a disaster. Even if you find a spot, you're going to pay 80 to 100 bucks for it. So take the T, which is the subway here. Get a ride, do something else, but yeah, beautiful part of town. So we're just walking through this old cemetery. I'm gonna keep our voices down a little bit. I am gonna take my hat off to those of you wondering who watch the channel. Yes, I do have a full head of hair under here. A full messy head of hair. So typically I wear a trucker hat to keep that in line, but out of respect for the folks buried here in this place, we're gonna take our hat off, take our sunglasses off, and try to be quiet and respectful as possible. All right, so just speaking to a gentleman here, this is the grave of Daniel Malcolm. And apparently the British really didn't like him. He was a smuggler of some kind, true patriot. And so because they hated him so much, they actually shot bullets or muskets at his gravestone, and I'll show you those right now. Alrighty folks, we are running out of daylight, so I'm going to give you the very quick version of this. This is the Old North Church that you can see behind me. This is where Paul Revere lit his lanterns, warning that the British were coming. So pretty interesting spot, but we've got about maybe an hour of daylight left. I've actually explored this church and in great detail went into the crypts. I have the footage, I just haven't actually edited the video yet. So that will be added later to the channel. You're gonna see inside and everything and get a little bit more about the history of the place. But for now, we're gonna stay on the trail and we're gonna keep moving. are now in Boston's beautiful North End. And this is my favorite part of the city. It has by far, I think, the best restaurants. It's kind of like the Little Italy of Boston. So it's not actually called that, it's just referred to as the North End. But the number of Italian restaurants and bakeries and nice bars, cafes, just a beautiful, beautiful part of town. And it makes you feel like you're in a different city completely. Like, it's just completely unlike anything else, any other neighborhood within the city, really. And that's why Boston's kind of cool. I think there's just so many different little neighborhoods, and when you go from one to another, they're all just completely different. So yeah, we'll keep filming, but I wish you could smell what I'm smelling. Everyone's kind of getting ready for dinner, and it's just overwhelming, the aroma of this place. It's really nice and it's making me hungry, but we'll keep going and moving along while we've got the daylight. That was the exterior of the famous Paul Revere house. To be honest, I've never been in there. I've heard good things. I've heard it's not particularly friendly to tall people like myself, so probably not gonna do that today, but definitely will do it sometime in the future, but not looking to get my head hit or anything. Yeah, we'll stay on the tour. Let's keep moving along. Okay, we are still moving along, heading our way down the Freedom Trail, but I wanted to pause and take a second to show you this area. This is a green area in between the North End, which is over there, which is where we just were, all the nice Italian restaurants, bakeries, all that good stuff. And then downtown, which is all these big skyscrapers here, fancy buildings, TD North Garden, everything that you have in downtown Boston. But what's interesting about this green space, which is now a park and very pretty, this actually used to all be a very ugly, very noisy, very busy interstate. So what they did is they actually, to replace that, they built a tunnel right underneath where we're staying now, which I believe is either Interstate 93 or Interstate 95. And then they actually just planted grass on top of the interstate and made this little park. So much more beautiful. It's hard to imagine now, like, having this, that there used to be just like a 6-lane interstate that was super, super noisy, next to, you know, the North End, which is a really quiet, pretty place to have a nice dinner and enjoy yourself, and it's very historic as well. So, fun little fact about Boston, but let's keep going down the trail. folks. I'm gonna do the best I can as it's really packed here. But behind me is Faneuil Hall. And to those of you that are a fan of the Fallout games, specifically Fallout 4, which takes place in Boston, you'll remember this building was featured prominently in the game and was infested by super mutants. So hopefully no super mutants in there today, just a beautiful building and a lot of tourists. I actually have not seen it this busy down here in a long time. So normally it's actually reasonably chill, but yeah, it's kind of cool. Everyone's having a good time, and it's the time of the season. So we're gonna keep moving along.
Oh yeah. Show you how to react. What is something good? Something that looks like that. I want to laugh.
All right, another quick little fun fact about Boston. We're detouring from the trail just a little bit here, but in the midst of all this really beautiful, historic architecture, you have this beast right behind me. Now this building is Government Center, so that's actually where like the mayor's office is, city administration, city of Boston, public works, etc., etc. But it is a truly hideous building, real brutalist architecture. But yeah, just kind of a fun thing that's smack dab in the middle of all these really, really pretty buildings and interesting things. Hopefully one of these days they'll get rid of it, but it's kind of a running joke around the city that it's an ugly building. So keep moving along. All right, next little pit stop here. This is the old Boston City Hall. You'll see that it is a beautiful, beautiful old building. I'll get some more close-up shots of it here in a second. Fun fact about this building, it no longer serves any government or city function at all. It is now a Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. So if you like steak, I think that's a place to do it. I've heard they're good, I've never been personally. But I find it a bit ironic and a bit almost wasteful that this is not a museum, that it's some private restaurant that is quite honestly really expensive and out of reach for most people. So I'm sure it's nice inside, but kind of a shame that this is not a museum or a historic site. But I'll get a couple shots of it here. folks, we are at another historic cemetery. Hats coming off. A couple very prominent people buried here, one of them being Paul Revere himself, whose house we saw a little while ago, and also Mr. Samuel Adams. And you may know him from the beer, but he was also a patriot, statesman, etc. We're going to see where he is laid to rest here in just a moment. The other notable, and I'm sure there's countless notable here, so no disrespect to the ones that I don't know, but the other notable figures here are Benjamin Franklin's parents are buried here as well. We are moving along as fast as we can here, just because we are racing against the sunset, which, as you can see back there, is already starting to set on us pretty quickly. So we're almost near the end of the trail though, so we are now in the Boston Commons, which is basically the equivalent of Central Park for New York, for those that have never been to Boston. It's kind of our major, kind of big green space, that and the public gardens. Big public park. I believe it's also a national park technically. Always a lot of people out here, cool stuff going on. Christmas decorations are really pretty as well. We're just gonna keep moving along here and show you as much as I can before the sun goes down and we are in the dark. We'll keep going. Well, folks, we actually made it, unbelievably, before the sun went down. So technically the end of the Freedom Trail is this little kind of souvenir shop, I guess, behind me, which, you know, typical that it would end right on a souvenir ship, exit on the gift shop on your way out, as they say, right? But yeah, really nice people in there. Maps, souvenirs, get what you need. Very informative, very friendly. That's the end. I think while we have a little bit more daylight, I am actually going to take you down, show you a couple more little things in the Commons here, and then we'll call it a night. Well, folks, I think we are going to go ahead and call it there. The sun is going down, so we're about to lose the daylight. Just want to say that was the Boston Freedom Trail. We actually managed to walk the length of it in a couple hours, which is pretty nice. tried to get through as much as I could to show you kind of what it's like on the ground and, you know, what it actually looks like. Would encourage everyone to visit Boston. It's a beautiful city. It's a very safe city, very historic, just lots to do and lots to see. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed and liked this video so I can keep doing these kinds of things. I really enjoy filming them, and it means a lot to me to, you know, to those of you that watch and enjoy it as well. Next week I am going to Roatan, Honduras, which is a total change of pace from Boston, but expect some videos there. I'll also do probably another video sometime in the near future on the actual Boston Commons when it's nicer, probably in the spring or the summertime. And I'll also take you to the public gardens, which are just beautiful and majestic and really, really pretty, and one of the many treasures that Boston has to offer. So thank you again. Please like and subscribe. But other than that, we're going to call it a night. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.